Hello and welcome to the Auto Guide Show. This week, Kyle drives some trucks. We have an expert on about trucks, and we also drive a couple of German sedans. But first, a word from our sponsor. eBay has reinvented car buying. From click to curb, everything is covered. With their new secure purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. And eligible vehicle purchases are backed by up to $100,000 in protection. This is what modern car buying looks like. Get your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary. So kicking things off this week, Kyle, you went and drove a niche truck of a niche truck?
Yes. Yeah, that was exactly how we felt going to this. It was the 2026 Chevrolet Silverado EV Trail Boss. So the off-road version of the brand's full-size, massive electric pickup. I have thoughts. Mike, you and I drove the RST earlier this year, and it made a lot of sense in my mind of like, hey, it's street-focused, right? Because I feel like most people who are buying a big electric truck probably aren't off-roading or probably don't want to. So this was weird to me because it's a quasi-unibody, right? That truck platform is weird on its own. And I just don't really... I don't understand who this is for, I guess. I know we've said so many times that the entire market wants more like rugged trims. So maybe that's it. Someone who wanted an electric pickup already. And then they're like, oh, but I want a little bit more off-road feel. Cool, but the limitations of the platform are pretty obvious if you go off-road. It'll tackle things, but it doesn't do it with any grace.
Yeah, I think it's not even about capability. Well, it is, but it's about bragging rights. It's someone who gets this and says, look what my truck can do. We talked about this earlier when you're going on the event. This is basically a stretched Hummer EV in terms of what it's got underneath it. And we've driven that on some pretty off-road focused tracks before. And yeah, it's super capable. So I'm sure this is too. It's almost too capable, but it's kind of like, who's doing this? Who's taking this?
It's too capable in ways and then not in others. Like in off-roading, the problem is it doesn't have any lockers, right? It uses an ABS setup. And because it's a dual motor, it means there's one motor on the rear axle. So it can't send all power one side or the other, right? It's just braking the one wheel that doesn't have grip. And so what you end up with is when we would finish the trail, all we could smell were burnt brakes because these trucks were working so hard. And because it's a quasi-unibody, it also doesn't have the articulation. So if you're going over like a twistier section that would normally, just twist, a body on frame has the flex there and all the articulation that you want. And this would just lift a wheel right up in the air. And it would get over what it needed because it has so much power and it has good grip. It's just that when the wheel goes high up in the air and then it comes down, this thing's like over 8,500 pounds. So it comes down with all the grace you'd expect of that much weight.
So it sounds like it's not as good as the Hummer. Does it have some sort of extract mode where it gets like 75 inches of ground clearance?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So I take it back. It's not as good as the Hummer. All right. Well,
I just want to quickly say though, like in Chevy's defense, this is a Trail Boss, right? It's not a ZR2, so it's not the most off-roady trim. It's just light off-roading. But I mean, you're spending $90,000 US or $110,000 Canadian. You could get a loaded ZR2 gas truck, or I mean, not even gas. Get the excellent diesel, right? And so. That's the tough thing for me.
Well, it's the thing. Like that's the one you just described. That's the one people that are really going to off-road, especially if they're taking off-road trailers and stuff, are going to use. This is, again, you can impress people on certain trails, but most of the time it's like how the Lightning now has the STX instead of I think it was the Lariat or whatever.
Yeah, and like the rest of the platform,
all things.
Yeah, it's like 478 miles is wild. Like that. that's cool. And I understand the argument of like, you're going to take this on a light trail, go out into the middle of nowhere because you have so much range, power everything because you have over 10 kilowatts of onboard power. Cool. Like, it's just, I feel like the buyer who needs all of that in one package is like such a small part of a Venn diagram. So,
But yeah, I mean, you're right though. With the range, this thing, you go on a week camping way off the trail, and like we said when we off-roaded the Hummer, I'm sure it was similar here. You're going so slow speed, you're barely using much of your range. Like you can
true.
crawl for days.
Yeah.
And if you have a home charger, it's not going to cost you the $60 to charge that 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. It'll cost you like $6. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we will leave trucks for a second. You drove the AMG E53. So this is the one with the V8. No, with the Turbo 6, or is this the one with the Hybrid 4? I'm so confused these days.
You
Sorry, not V6,
got it.
Inline 6.
Hybrid inline 6, plug-in hybrid inline 6. But it's not like the plug-in hybrid inline 4-cylinder in the 63s. It's not confusing at all.
No.
Yeah, so it's a plug-in hybrid, but it actually has a good amount of electric range.
Nice.
Yeah, so I drove this and I didn't like it that much at first, and then I kind of liked it more, and then I handed it back and was kind of but I think a lot of that had to do with the price. And my biggest complaint is that it's just too stiff. And I know that it's an AMG, but it's not the top AMG, right? It is for now, but I assume they're going to put a 63 out eventually. And
Once
so
the
it
V8
just
comes
feels,
back.
yeah, or even turn up the wick on this one. But I mean, yeah, probably V8. And it just feels too stiff for where it is in the lineup. I really enjoy the current E-Class a lot. It is probably my favorite in that segment, the regular ones, because they're so smooth. And I figure
Wow.
if you're buying a high performance version, you probably still want some level of smoothness because you're getting a sedan. And I just didn't get that with this. The transmission is also a little jerky depending on the handoff of the power. And the brakes are very strange. Mercedes has done something weird with brakes recently where I just don't get correct pedal feel. Trying to be smooth in stop and go traffic is tough, but the powertrain is excellent. I like how it looks. I think it's fast and very capable. This one is also way too expensive because it has the Edition 1 package, which is something like $18,000 on its own. And you get the matte paint, the stripes, some unique color treatments, and a car cover.
What is the power on this?
577, unless you use launch control, and then it's 604.
So it's up there with the 550. Because I drove the 540 not too long ago, and it was super smooth. But you saying this is your favorite segment, that's saying a lot, because the 5 Series is fantastic. So it just shows you how good these cars are. And I was going to say, it sounds like they're the best platforms to drive, but it's also, I think, for both brands, the best version of their current styling language. Like, this looks really good, and I think the 5 Series is probably the best looking BMW sedan right now. So something about that size and proportions, I don't know.
I find it, you've mentioned this before, that you really like the 5 Series styling, and styling.
It's not I like it, it's the 7 and 3 just look too weird.
Well, I think the 3 is totally normal right now, right? Like, the 3 is the end of previous BMW styling. And it's had 2 facelifts now. But yeah, I do think these middle cars have grown so much that they're as big as what an S or 7 were a decade ago. And they're so good at so many things. And so it does make the expectations for the sports models so high. Yeah.
You're right. The class has grown so much that the Germans will keep their big guys because it's like an image thing as much as a size thing. But we're seeing so many other manufacturers killing off their supposed full size because they're competing against these now, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, Acura is long gone, Infiniti, I mean, they've not went decades. Lexus just canceled theirs, so yeah. All right, moving on to something much smaller. Okay, this wasn't a sedan, and technically it's not German, but it is a 4-door Mini Cooper S, which is shared with a German platform. And yes, it has a hatch, but this is their, quote, practical car. They do have the Countryman, but that's a crossover. Yep. So I drove the Countryman gas, the Countryman electric, the convertible, and now this. I'm just missing the 3-door in the updated Mini Spectrum. So this drives a lot like the convertible, and the weight is pretty similar because this is a bigger vehicle. It doesn't have all of that hardware for the top. So performance wise, it drives much like I found. Like it's quick. It handles really well. It's way more mature and composed than minis of the past, but that's also sort of the problem is it doesn't have that raw visceral feel you expect. And I get the buyers of these cars are growing up, so they're also growing the car up, but minis become a hey, look at our cool styling, look at our amazing inside tech and light show brand more than a driver's brand. And I said this with the convertible, it kind of reflects, I think, where the market is sadly, people don't care about how cars drive as much as the tech because that's just where the consumers are with all this autonomous this and that and driver assist. So they're going the way to make money, and that's what a car company is supposed to do. But like, this is the S. There's no hood scoop. There's no exposed exhaust. More so, there's no way to control the transmission, which is a dual clutch. You can't even customize your drive modes. It's you pick an experience and off you go. And I mean, go-kart is pretty responsive and fast, but it's too responsive to just drive around. But then, I don't know, timeless is sort of the next closest to get some sort of performance, but it's not enough. So I think it's a good vehicle for what they're targeting. It's just don't expect it to be mini of old. And also don't expect this to be like a wholly practical 4-door vehicle. Like the doors are the smallest with the most rear wheel intrusion the side of a Wrangler. Adults are not having fun getting in and out. Small family, perfect. But if you had a real small family and you're putting in a rear facing child seat, I feel terrible for you trying to get it in and out of there. So sort of like your Silverado EV Trail Boss. This is a small segment that's looking for a mini, but also a little more practicality, but not too much.
Yeah. Like they don't want a Clubman, or sorry, RIP.
Well, it's gone. I know.
Yeah.
That was the good one.
They don't want a Countryman because the Countryman is like a proper like Crosstrek size now. And so now it's like, oh, well, I want the hatch, but I want a little more practicality. And you're like, okay, well, how much of a market is there for that? The interesting thing to me is you said that it's aging up like the buyers. And in my mind, I think that's actually kind of the opposite, where Mini is in this effort to always perpetually bring in young buyers, right? It wants this image of like young hip. And so young people, sticking to the stereotype, don't tend to care about driving as much as like cool tech or useful tech or fun interactions. I know we've talked about it before that there are young people who very much do care about cars, but yeah, it's following the stereotype of like being very techie forward. And it's sad because it is still fairly fun to drive if you're buying a small car. Like I can't think of many cars that are more fun to drive, but it's just the S used to be the fun car, and then JCW came out and it kind of
Oh, I think that's it. I think like I said, some young people still do like driving, which is great. But there's like the FRS, or the FRS, there's the 86 and the BRZ and the Miata for that. And Mini used to kind of be in that sort of fun segment, and they've realized it's shrinking, so let's go this way. And it is like a tech audio light show inside, which is really cool. And it's still kind of fun. So just for the person that doesn't, they're all outward ultimate goal is fun driving, but still on a little spirited driving. But this car, I think the demographic is you 10 years ago. So like a couple with maybe a dog, because you have the small doors to let the dog in, and you get a bigger hatch, which is more practical. And then if you have nothing back there, you fold the seats down, you get a really big hatch. So I get the appeal. It's just not me. So moving on, Kyle is back in a truck, this time a Chevrolet. Oh, surprise. But this time it is gas. Actually, no, it's not gas.
Yeah. This was funny because I drove this much earlier in the year, near the tail end of summer, and they happen to publish it the same week. So I feel it's a good comparison. I drove the Silverado 1500 Duramax, the diesel, and it was the high country. It was the top trim. So it's also a pricey big rig, but it's now the only diesel light duty truck on the market. I did not realize that until after I drove it, because Rams is gone and Ford quietly stopped selling its diesel. So if you want one, this is it. And It's fantastic. It's in my mind, this is exactly what a truck should have. Like, yeah, the V8 sounds cool, sure, but now this has 305 horse and nearly 500 pound-feet of torque. Like, you don't need more than that in a full-size truck. I know they're much bigger than they used to be, but that's plenty. It never felt sluggish. It got up to speed easily. It was such a great car. We were out in Canada's East Coast, so we were in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. It did everything we wanted, and it was super comfortable. Super Cruise is great. It still works out there too. Uh, I I think this is a really good truck. I still don't love the looks. It's probably my least favorite looking truck in the
Yeah, the
class.
light thing in the front and
Yeah,
rear has never done it for me.
yeah. I mean, like on one hand, this one was kind of better because it was black on black on black, and so it kind of
Hides it.
de-highlights. Yeah, but at the same time, everyone thinks you're an undercover cop, which is maybe a good thing. Uh,
Yeah.
so and the interior is only okay. Like I know it's not good when my wife gets in a car and is like, "Oh, this interior isn't very nice," because usually she's like, "They're fine." Um, so overall, though, I think because of the diesel, this quickly moves up the rankings for me. Where if people are asking what they need for a full size truck, I'm really tempted to just say like, get the diesel. When you're sitting
Yeah.
inside, you can't see what it looks like either.
Yeah. So we'll talk with the special guest, the Truck King, later about how ridiculous capabilities of these trucks are getting, as you were saying, the numbers and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I think this truck, and actually Chevrolet as a whole, perfectly sort of embodies and shows where we are with the electric market. So the EV truck you drove compared to this, it's like at the price point, this is so much better at everything you need in a truck. But then at the other end, if you do Equinox and Equinox EV, the price difference is worth going electric over that. So I think the whole thing with EVs is there's manufacturers and I think consumers are still trying to figure out where they work in the market and at what's the advantages and disadvantages. So
yeah.
yeah, like I would get this diesel truck if I'm spending that kind of ridiculous money in a heartbeat because of everything you said. It's got like you're not racing your truck, and if you are, go buy a used sport truck. Um,
And to add to that, in the case of both of the Silverados, they have Super Cruise that takes into account your trailer, which is something that you
mhm.
can't get yet on Blue Cruise too, right? So like that also really changes the question of which truck to get if you are towing regularly. And to your point about EVs being suitable for trucks, like that's kind of the $1 billion question, right? Is like they're very capable. All of them are very capable now, but most people don't use trucks for their capability. And so, in my mind, that makes EV trucks a little more tempting, but the price is still the big limiting factor.
Yeah, without going off too much, that's why
Yeah,
Ford's supposed mid-size EV truck is, I think, like if there's an EV Maverick, like that's the market, that's the spot. But
yeah,
anyway, moving on. Speaking of truckish things, Nissan
rugged.
has officially 100% finally for sure confirmed the Xterra is coming back. We've been hearing this for a while, but when their boss says it's coming back, it's coming back. We can only hope it is based on a new frontier or just the frontier we currently have. Like make it a proper Forerunner Bronco competitor, or if you're gonna go the other way, then make sure it's at least as capable as like a Passport Trail Sport. Like don't bring back a Rogue rebadged Xterra.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I also just want to say Hollywood must be happy because antagonists in teen dramas named Chad are probably now they have their new truck. But it was such a weird thing. Xteras were just always that truck. Yeah, it'd be silly not to do this, right? Like the whole market is constantly. We've been spending an entire episode talking about how everyone wants ruggedness. The Xterra is a well-known name. You have a Frontier. It's your only truck now. Use that
Yeah.
platform.
Yep. And it better be able to climb the side of a mountain when you get the Xterra Rock Creek, because you know that'll come. And the Xterra like you could go crazy with it. Like do something weird. Like this was the SUV that back in the day you could get a supercharged V6 and a manual transmission. It didn't mean it was fast, but it was just a cool combo to have.
So that does raise the question though of like what do you put in this? Just the Frontier's engine and leave it be? Do you put a supercharger on that for old time's sake? Like
Armada. Drop in the Turbo 6.
Ooh.
Make it a monster. All right, so just quickly before we wrap up the Auto Guide show brought to you by eBay Motors first segment, if you head over to Auto Guide, we have a lot more opinion pieces than we used to, so check them out. Let us know what you don't agree with our opinions. One we have right now is I look at 11 cars and trucks and SUVs that are using old nameplates, not ones that consistently use them, but ones that brought them back from the dead. And do they actually live up to the name, the hype, the image? Not all do. So check that out. Let us know. And we will be taking a short break. And when we come back, Kyle and I will be talking to someone who knows more about trucks than almost anyone in the industry. And then I'll have Colum on to talk F1, and we'll be back to wrap things up.
eBay has reinvented vehicle buying. From click to curb, everything's covered. It's all thanks to their new secure purchase. Ever try to buy a car and end up in a parking lot with a stranger on some blind trust? Or spend half the day at a dealership talking to pushy salespeople and signing paperwork? Or maybe worst of all, wait hours at the DMV just to transfer the title? That era is over. For years, eBay has been the go-to for gearheads, collectors, and DIYers. Because whatever you're into, from classics to SUVs and trucks to imports, eBay's got it. And now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your next ride, it's where you can buy it, start to finish. Sellers and titles are verified, paperwork is handled by experts, and payments are traceable and digital, so you know exactly who you're dealing with and exactly what you're getting. Plus, you can finance, insure, and register your vehicle all in one place. No more hours at the dealership, no more trips to the DMV. Get your vehicle, plates, and paperwork shipped to your door ready to drive. And it's all part of one seamless process designed to feel as easy as buying anything else online. And eligible vehicles purchased on eBay are backed by up to $100,000 in purchase protection. Thinking about selling a ride? Secure Purchase makes that simple too, because you know your buyer and their funds are verified. If you still owe on your car, the financing payoff is fully integrated, so you're not chasing paperwork or waiting on checks to clear. And with Secure Purchase, you get paid fast, and you're not going to be stuck chasing no-shows or answering the 5th still available messages. This is what modern car buying looks like. Skip the DMV, skip the sketchy meetups. Buy it on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, and eBay subsidiary.
Hello and welcome back to the show. We have a special guest joining us. Steve, if you could just introduce yourself and what you do to all of our listeners.
Hey folks, my name is Stephen Elmer, and I currently run the Truck King YouTube channel and TK Power Sports, a couple of YouTube channels.
It's just a couple of YouTube channels, a couple of huge YouTube channels. So, yeah, second generation on the channel, which is crazy. Like YouTube's been around long enough for that now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can't believe sometimes looking back and realizing that we've been doing this for, over a decade, which is bonkers, putting videos on YouTube about cars.
It's funny to say that. I saw a video of me from 14 years ago, and I was like, whoa. Like, you see yourself every day. You don't think you changed, and you see a 14-year-old like video.
100%, man. I see the early videos, and I can't believe I look like such a child.
Well, for those who don't know, like you used to work at AutoGuide and with me back in the day, and you basically were a child back then. This was like your first big automotive job, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for any long-time AutoGuide readers or viewers or listeners, I started at AutoGuide in 2011. That was my very first job in automotive journalism. At first, just as a news editor. I was never hired to make videos. I was just hired to write news. And then slowly but surely, worked my way up there and started doing the video thing, and then sort of never looked back. Once the videos took off, I love writing, but these days I don't write that much. I'm just all video all the time.
Yeah, you kind of found your niche, which makes sense because it's family inherited into the trucks for AutoGuide, because none of us had the facilities to really test them. So we said, hey, Steve, take this truck, and that became your thing, and now you are the truck king. I remember once I had, I can't remember the name of the company, but I had a armored car booked for review, and I woke up sick, and you filled in last minute, and it was good because you needed a truck license to drive it, which I didn't have. And
I remember, it was the Incast Huron.
Yeah, I did it on the fly video. That thing was a monster, which is good because it would have been a really pathetic video of me just sitting in the vehicle that I couldn't drive.
Well, the key was it had air brakes, right? So you needed your air brake endorsement, and yeah, I have that because I used to drive big trucks. So that was a heck of a vehicle to review, especially on the streets around Milton, Ontario. It felt very out of place in a massive armored truck.
But like Ancaster or something, that'd be fine.
Yeah, drive a little south and you'll be in your element. So when you got out of school, you went straight and got your truck license, I guess. Then you did that for a little bit till you got into the writing side of things.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I'll start even further back than that. So as you've been alluding to, I'm second generation auto journalist. My dad, Howard Elmer, when I was 7 years old, he became a freelance auto journalist writing for the Toronto Star. That was his big outlet. And then he worked his way through all the major papers. He actually started before that too in the snowmobile business. So I really came up first, in the power sports automotive journalism business, watching what my dad did. And then, out of school, I went to school to become a writer. I deviated a little bit and did some digital media stuff because I kind of saw the future was more video rather than writing. And then immediately out of school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And Dad said, go get your truck license. So that's what I did. So I drove, big trucks. I had my DZ here in Ontario. So I drove big trucks for a while, big straight trucks, delivering stuff all over Ontario and still trying to decide what to do. And then, the position came up at Vertical Scope and I jumped on it. And as you mentioned too, my dad, he kind of found his niche was pickup trucks because his thing, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, was most journalists aren't testing trucks as trucks were intended to be tested. Most of them drive them empty and write about it, which is fair game. That's how a lot of consumers drive them too. But luckily, we had the infrastructure. We have 60 acres of our own property. We have, our own wood lot. We have a lake, we have boats, we have ATVs and snowmobiles. So we already lived that kind of pickup truck driven lifestyle. So he saw that niche and went, you know what, let's test trucks properly. So I really grew up in it. I have that experience different from most people where my love of trucks is not just because, I love trucks and my dad loved trucks, but because I got to see all the new trucks every year, basically starting from 1998 on. I've been in every single brand new truck, every single model year until today. So that's a different way to come up as a kid, but it was obviously cool. And I remember just being so stoked for what truck is going to come home, on Monday and what's it going to have in the back seat and will there be TV screens? Because that was my priority as a kid. So I definitely kind of grew up in auto journalism.
Yeah, I remember that was the thing back then, the TV screens. If you had TV screens, I was like, well, remember like the Warner Brothers packages and VCRs and whatnot in cars?
Yeah. I was just going to say, it feels like everything's come full circle then, Stephen. If you said you came up in power sports, you also saw the writing on the digital wall with the move to video and stuff. You're, now you're right back where you should be.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I think also this probably goes without saying, but power sports and pickup trucks, they go together really well. If you really love trucks, there's a good chance it's because you have some kind of toy, whether it's an RV or, again, a fishing boat or a PWC or an ATV. So I always kind of felt like there was a lot of crossover audience there as well. And then just selfishly, I love ATVs and especially snowmobiles. So, I love keeping my finger on that pulse and being able to ride some new units too, just because it's so fun. And it's so different from automotive. Like we do a lot of off-roading and pickup trucks, which is great, but it's just not as raw and focused as power sports. So there's a lot of crossover there, but they're so different. And I love being able to kind of explore both of those worlds,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, power sports don't need to also handle the road like a truck does. So it's more specialized. And as you 100%. Said, you review both. So you get like the two birds with one stone. You get to pick up a pickup truck for review and go tow a power sport back home. And, you're doing two things at once.
There are many videos of me online picking up side-by-sides and ATVs all over the GTA and then reviewing the truck and then, at the same time reviewing the machine either on the same channel or on a different channel. So, I've used that to my advantage. And, why not? Especially, picking it up like today, for instance, I just went and picked up a Yamaha side-by-side, but I used my dad's Chevy 3500. So, that's not much of a load for a 3500. But I've taken tons of small trucks and lots of crossovers and SUVs to pick up these things. And that's really what a lot of consumers are using if you're only towing, one ATV or side by side. So I feel like it's also relevant information for consumers because that's what most people own. It's some kind of recreational toy that they want to tow.
Yeah, and I think you touch on an important thing there. Like earlier, you said a lot of people don't necessarily test trucks or use their trucks in the way that you guys do test them, right? But that's the thing is there's always the option. And so the fact that you're doing it, the fact that you're regularly testing all these trucks, I mean, that's very thorough, right? Someone who maybe is on the fence about towing or a little anxious about it, they get to watch your stuff and get a better idea of exactly what they can expect.
Yeah, that's definitely the idea, and you're right, especially if you're getting into the world of trucks and power sports, and you're coming from a no knowledge background. It's overwhelming, straight up. It's not the same as buying a family car or a family crossover. Suddenly you're looking into payloads and GVWRs and tow ratings and what kind of hitch do I need and what kind of trailer do I need. So it just the world of trucks definitely has a lot more to it. And we do our best to demystify it as well as we can.
Yeah, anyone who is looking to get into the world, I highly recommend checking out your channel, because people just, if they don't know the world, they see like, oh, this Ascent or Pilot can tow 5,000 pounds. I'll go buy myself a 5,000 pound boat and off I go. It's like there's a lot more you got to consider. I remember when we worked together, Steve, we used to chuckle at, yeah, like that's great. That's the rating. And even with trailer brakes, that's what you're allowed to do, but you don't really want to be near the limit of most vehicles' tow ratings, correct?
100%, yeah, and then it's even more nuanced because not all trailers are created equal, right? Like a flat deck trailer, a lowboy flat deck that doesn't have any tall walls on it is not going to be affected by aerodynamics, whereas a trailer that's significantly lighter but has big tall walls and a roof is going to be way more affected by the wind and what's going on back there. So even though the number might be lesser, what kind of trailer is it? How's it built? Is it a travel trailer with a big flat nose on the front? Because that's going to totally change how it tows as well. So once again, you're right. And automakers, we all know they love to show off their numbers, right? It's, hey, look how much I can tow. Hey, look what the payload number is. And that's where it's not always the best indicator for a consumer getting into this of, oh, my numbers make sense. Your numbers can make sense, and it can still be a miserable towing experience because of whatever. You're too close to your limit. The trailer's not loaded correctly. So, once again, that's something that like we're always on about. I get tired of talking about it, but you have to keep bringing it back up, which is like the numbers are one thing. Yes, they should make sense, but let's talk about tall walls versus short wall trailers, double axle trailers versus single axle, because it's all different. It really is. And whether it's a boat or a side-by-side, even again, side-by-sides, I'll put one side-by-side on the trailer and then put another one on and go, it feels different all of a sudden. The number hasn't changed much, but obviously the way that thing cuts through the air is different than the way the last one was cutting through the air. So that's another thing we always stress on the channel too, is at the end of the day, the best way to evaluate is with your butt. You got to put your butt in the seat and go drive. And that's going to ultimately tell you if it's a safe button-down towing experience or not. So that's the knowledge we try to share with people and at least get you in that mindset of, oh, okay, I can't just blindly trust the numbers. Because, the Ford Super Duty can tow 40,000 pounds. If you're going to tow 40,000 pounds all the time, you should probably get a tractor trailer or like a medium duty 5,500, right? So it's, the numbers we're dealing with these days too are just nuts.
That's bragging rights, just like fuel economy. It's funny you bring up the trailer height thing, because I was naive, young. Well, I'm not even a kid. I guess very late teens, early 20s, and I used to tow a Wave Runner, Yamaha Wave Runner that I owned with my various cars. I had a hitch originally for not my Alero. I guess my first one was on my Cobalt. Then I had it on my Camaro, and I also had it on something else. But I remember with the Cobalt, like I'd tow that everywhere, like all across Ontario, no problem, and launch it, no problem. Then my sister was moving. I was like, oh, I'll go rent a single axle closed box U-Haul trailer to help you move. Hooked up to the Cobalt, got on the highway, and I think about 85K, so 50 miles an hour. That's as fast as I could go. The wind pushing back on my car was just, it wouldn't go any faster. And I was like, it's lighter than the Wave Runner, but aero suddenly came into play.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And changes the whole thing.
I have. Sorry, Mike.
No, go ahead.
So Stephen, I have a question relating to trucks that I feel like is very, auto journalist. We all have to deal with all the different driving assists nowadays, right? And then of course, automakers have various different towing specific assists. Where do you land on those?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think first of all, this may be obvious, but obviously, there's so many different types. So I guess the first one that comes to mind is Super Cruise while towing, because they're still the only brand that's letting you do that. The other brands with Blue Cruise and even with Tesla, they have their own self-driving systems, but they won't do it with a trailer. And with that one specifically, I really love it. I really do. It works super well. If you're going long distances, especially on mostly empty highways, man, it really takes a lot of the stress out of towing. And I also feel like the way it reacts is very much how I would react to things. So, and that is to say, not too sharp. You always want, smooth inputs on the wheel. And in my experience with it, that's the way it's driven. My one caveat, like usual, is you're still at fault as the driver. So I do worry about drivers getting too complacent when they're using it. But that one specifically, I'll call out and say, yes, if I was driving across the country and I had that, I would use it. Absolutely. Maybe not in like dense 401 traffic. That's where I prefer to drive myself. But once you're out of the cities and you're just cruising along, it's awesome. And then when it comes to the other assists, most of them are all, reverse focused. You have Pro Trailer Backup Assist, and Ram has a system, and Toyota has a system for that now too. I think it's really simple. I believe they're excellent systems, like Pro Trailer Backup Assist. That's the one I've used most recently. It works really well. It's really intuitive. Turn the knob right, trailer goes right, knob left, trailer goes left. And if you've never towed before, backing up a trailer is stressful and probably one of the most stressful parts of towing. So if you've never done it and you use Pro Trailer Backup Assist, I like the fact that it actually teaches you in real time. Because you start to realize, oh, the trailer goes this way, the truck goes this way. So you kind of helps you wrap your head around it. So I like that aspect of it. I think my biggest kind of negative on it is you shouldn't own a trailer if you can't back it up without it. I worry that people will rely on it too much. And at the end of the day, if it works every time, then you're golden. But what happens that one time it doesn't work? So there's always that part of me that's like, yeah, the systems are good, but you should understand how to do it without them. And if you use the system enough, you should start to naturally understand what to do without it, because again, it kind of teaches you the dynamics of backing up a trailer. So for the most part, yeah, I'm all for those systems. I just think that if you go and get a truck, don't rely on it all the time. And then, there's so many other ones too. The other one, just in general, is cameras. Man, the camera systems we have these days are incredible. I came up even in a time when there weren't that many cameras. You had to use your mirrors. If you're learning how to back up today or drive with a trailer, you just have to use your cameras as an extra tool on top of your mirrors, right? You can't forget that your mirrors are there. But having that many views around the truck is massively helpful. I was in that Silverado 3500 today, and it has the cameras that turn on automatically when you hit the signal. So I'm coming up the highway, signal right, and you can see right down the side of the truck and trailer. It's makes it so much easier. And those things it's hard to complain about, because that's just straight up safer, right? So for all of these systems, I think they're great. Just understand what's going on behind the scenes, I guess, is really what I'm getting at.
I have one just to bring up in a second, but you're thinking about know how to back up a trailer. That's something even without any assist, people need to learn. Like, take your vehicle to a parking lot and practice it, because I can tell the people, like one of my neighbors who does general labor, he has a trailer he takes with him every day for his company, and he backs that thing into the tightest, craziest spot. Like, he's lying every day, no problem. And then you see the guys who tow once a year trying to back the smallest trailer into the driveway, and they're blocking the road for 10 minutes as they keep trying and keep jackknifing over and over. But anyway, I believe you were around before this really took over. So how much does the trailer sway assist systems help compared to when there was none?
I guess I would say that if you're doing things correctly, then they don't really do anything. If your trailer's loaded right, the big thing with sway generally is that your weight is too far back, so you don't have enough tongue weight. If the front of that trailer is too light and it ends up kind of pulling up on the back of your vehicle, then you start to get that sway. So I don't want to talk myself up too much here, but I don't think I've really ever felt it, because I've just know how to load a trailer correctly. So yeah, I think if sway assist is intervening with you a lot, then there's a deeper issue there. But I mean, just again, based on all my experience with every other automated driving system, I'm sure they're amazing. And of course, these trucks and the ECUs in our cars now, they can do things that you straight up can't do, right? They can break just the trailer wheels way quicker than you would ever think to do that. So I'm sure they do work well.
So it's sort of like when it's a system that should be more in an emergency one-off, sort of like stability control. If you're driving and you're constantly pinging off your stability control, you're probably not doing something right. But
Precise. Yeah, exactly.
The only time I've ever experienced sway control is in the most unlikely situation, and it was in a smart car because Mercedes brought it from their vans into the smart car, and I drove to Detroit in one of the worst winter storms. And every time, if people know, between Detroit and Toronto, it's just a big open straight highway. You'd go through clusters of trees, and every time you'd come out, you just get hammered by the wind. And it was making the weirdest noise. And I was like, why is it doing this? And then when I got there, I was talking to Mercedes, and, oh, that's our anti-sway kicking in to keep you straight. And I was like, oh, well, it works, I guess, because, in that little vehicle.
And it was probably using the ABS, I imagine, like dragging the ABS on one side or something to keep it straight.
Yeah, something. It made such a I can't even remember the noise, but I remember it wasn't the usual ABS noise, but I think it's because it was the computer kicking in. And it's probably to let the driver know, hey, the conditions aren't great. I mean, we're automotive writers. Like, I was driving that car somewhere you probably shouldn't have been, in conditions you shouldn't. But that was the point. Couldn't make it. And it did.
Yeah,
Sure.
And almost didn't make it back in the snowstorm, but fellow podcast fill-in / guest Jeff Wilson helped me home by making a path in a Cadillac that I followed in the smart car in a blizzard on the highway, because we couldn't see where the shoulders, markers, anything. You just were kind of hoping you knew where the road was. And then, Steve, is you're thinking like, this is crazy. How are we staying on the road? Then all of a sudden an 18-wheeler blows by you at twice the speed.
I remember those drives to Detroit. I'm pretty sure that year you're talking about was the year there was so many tractor trailers in the ditch that just got blown off the road, and they could do nothing about it. It was just so windy and so icy. I have very many memories of, driving to the Detroit Auto Show in sketchy winter conditions.
So you told us a lot about trucks and modern trucks. What about a little about the truck you have? Because you have something pretty cool.
I do, yeah. I have a 1985 Chevy K10. It's nicknamed Big Green. It actually found life on YouTube with the Fast Lane Truck, which is a place I also used to work. So TFL Truck bought it. They did a whole build series on it. So they put a lift kit underneath it, 35-inch tires, and then they got a ZZ6 crate engine from Chevrolet. So that's a 5.7-liter V8. It makes 400 horsepower. And they dropped that in there. So it's got a modern engine, which is nice. It's been fairly reliable for me. It did have some weird issues with the fuel pump. It needs high pressure fuel because it's not carbureted. They took the carburetor off because it came from Colorado. So it has throttle body fuel injection, which needs high pressure fuel. And I struggled with the high pressure fuel pump for a bit. But outside of that, it's nice to have an old truck with a modern engine because I pretty much know it's going to start every time. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Again, it stands in such stark contrast to all the new trucks I drive. So I feel like it's always a good reminder of, where trucks came from. And that is to say, from a place of just simplicity, man. Everything on that truck is dead simple. The parts are simple. Everything is overbuilt. That's something we hear a lot about these days, is they don't build them like they used to. And for the most part, that's a really good thing because our new trucks are so comfortable. However, I will say that in 85, for instance, the transmission that's in my truck, it went into every single Chevy truck from light duty right up to medium duty. So they're like big 5,500 delivery trucks use the exact same transmission. And at that point, that was their thinking, was build a transmission for the biggest truck and then just put it in all the other ones. So there is actually something to be said for that. And same with the transfer case. Like the transfer cases on the K10s from the 80s, the square bodies are like legendary. People doing builds today, they go searching for those transfer cases because they're just so overbuilt. And that's the cool thing too. Like the TFL dropped the 400 horsepower engine in. They didn't have to change a thing. The whole drive line remains the same. Differentials, the drive shaft, it's all the same stuff. So even that suggests that it was all overbuilt for the time too. It was ready to take that much power. So yeah, I absolutely love it. And I always call it my old dumb truck because it's just nothing like all our new smart trucks that we have today. But it's really rewarding to drive an old dumb vehicle because I know that I'm the brain. There's no computer brain. It's all this brain doing the driving.
Do the kids love getting dropped off at school in it?
Yeah, I just started taking my oldest in it this year. Once he moved to like a booster seat with just the seat belt. And yeah, I think he's only been in it like 2 or 3 times, but he absolutely loved it. He was so excited. And of course, for him, the first thing he noticed was the crank up windows, and then he's just sitting there cranking the windows up and down, and he thought it was so cool.
It's funny that we've reversed that, where like when we were kids, like getting into a car with power windows, it was like, oh, I gotta play with them, and now it's yeah, the other way around.
Yeah, 100%.
The switch will make it go up and down, or like someone in the front could unlock the door to let you out. Like mind blowing.
Yeah.
So that truck, you kind of had a connection with former employee and whatnot. But if it was up to you, what truck would you love to own?
It's a good question. There's a long list these days, though. Like recently, I've been really wrapped up in and I'm gonna cop out a little. I'm gonna give you 2 trucks. A Ford Lightning, an original Ford Lightning, like 2001, when they made it good on the racetrack. They dropped that thing to the ground, put a crazy engine into it. I just think those are such cool looking trucks. It's such a small truck too compared to what we have today.
Yeah,
and then in the same vein, a Dodge Ram SRT10. When Dodge went crazy and threw a Viper V10 into the Ram, and actually they stand in stark contrast, because everything I hear about the Lightning is that it actually handles really well. Like you want to go on a racetrack with it. The Ram SRT10 does not handle well. It's just there to roast rear tires, but that's okay because it's so ridiculous, right? So I've been kind of caught up in those sport trucks from the past, and that's actually again something no one is really doing today. We're inundated with off-road trucks, which I love. I'm not speaking ill of, but we have so many off-road options and so few cool street options in the truck world. So yes, I got my eye on those old performance trucks. I would love an SRT10 just to do donuts, but the tire budget would be harsh.
Yeah, you'd have to set aside twice the money.
Yeah. At least it's only rear tires, but
yeah. Well, I think. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think all 3 of us have driven the Lobo. I think, and so that's a fun little like reimagination of street trucks, but it's still the smaller ones, right? Like the S10 Extreme, that sort of mold, and it's like.
Don't insult the Lobo by bringing up S10 Extreme.
I'm saying because that was a small, sporty truck in the 90s. But like we don't have any full-sizers. They just go full Baja mode.
Right.
A funny story. I worked at Chevy when the Extreme came out, and I remember all the salespeople, like when I drive, they're like, what are we going to do with this thing? Like, who's going to buy this? It's like, it's just an S10 with a body kit. And I was like, you're all old. There's lots of young people who think this is the coolest thing, even though you're right. It is just an S10 with a body kit.
Yeah,
for sure. And a lot of them were just that for a while, right? And again, that's why I like those 2, the Lightning and the SRT10, because they were pretty legit, But on the Lobo, like I am happy that Ford did that with the Maverick first, because it is naturally, the right size for a sport truck. You want it to be small, it just aids in the handling. Like making an F-150 handle good is awesome, but also a much harder task. So I'm good with the Lobo. I do wish they went further with the powertrain. That's my biggest complaint on the Lobo. That's pretty much, obvious low-hanging fruit. But of all the brands too, it feels like Ford is the one that usually does stuff like that, and that's the one spot where it could use a little more jam. But I do like that truck.
I'm with you there. Like if the 2.3 was in there, perfect. Like, and I'm sure that'll happen. I'm sure give it some time, and they'll be like, hey, look, we have a Maverick Lobo R.
Lobo Lightning. But yeah, no, I agree, because that platform doesn't have the 2.3 or even the 2.7. But how hard could it be to take it out of the old Edge or out of the Explorer and shove it in there? Like it's front wheel drive, all wheel drive bias. Come on. Totally. And they tell us how all the parts for this and that are from the Ford RS. So why don't you give us the RS?
Give us the engine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That'd be awesome. But to Kyle's point, like it reminds me so much of the X Runner, and that thing, like to this day, you can't buy an X Runner in decent condition for anything reasonably priced, because the following that thing had. And I mean, it was cool looking, lowered, and had grippy tires, but it too wasn't like the engine was stock unless you paid like $55,000 for the factory supercharger, which no one did. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, out of curiosity, since those are your two picks, Steven, have you been keeping tabs on prices on Lightning and SRT10? Because I'm wondering which one is more affordable these days.
I'm out of date, so I'm sure these numbers aren't wrong. The last time I was looking up SRT10 prices, I was seeing like $25,000 for like high mileage examples in Ontario. But that was already probably like 2 years ago. So I don't know anymore, man.
Yeah.
And again, finding one that's anything like mint condition or unabused is probably next to impossible.
No. I was gonna say, is the quad cab auto any different than the regular cab manual in terms of pricing? Is like one noticeably more affordable?
It's a good question. I don't know is the short answer. I would wonder though, is the manual more expensive or less? Like in that kind of vehicle, you'd think more expensive because the kind of person who wants that probably loves the manual. But yeah, I don't know for sure.
And it was the original and lighter, and like, yeah, when they put it in the quad, it was sort of like, hey, we need to sell more. What else can we do? Like, well, we got a transmission that can handle the power. Let's just shove it in the regular version of the
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those. I actually drove one briefly, and by what I mean briefly is like across a parking lot. And it was just, the thrust was ridiculous. But I had a friend who had the Lightning modified, of course, even better for track use, and that thing was ridiculous. Like you'd see it, we'd go on track days, and it would just be embarrassing Mustangs and Camaros and whatnot. So that truck and the noise it makes when you open up the intake for that supercharger. Oh my god, I love that truck.
Yeah, they're cool trucks, man. And we'll see. Maybe the street truck might be making a bit of a comeback. I know Ram has something planned with Fox factory vehicles that's coming out, I think, next week. So,
unfortunately, everything's off road now.
Yeah, and then now there is an F-150 Lobo, which I guess is a Lobo in Mexico.
Right. Yes. Right. And yeah, I haven't been in the F-150 Lobo. We'll see if it's any as good as the Maverick. Just based on what I read, it doesn't sound like it's quite even as sort of intense as the Maverick is. But we'll see.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more or less an appearance package. But I mean, still, we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. That's it. And again, nothing against all the Baja trucks. I love that too. But I do feel like there's a bit of a pendulum swing, and now we've gone so far up the off-road route. Maybe we can turn back the other way a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The trucks are usually sort of ahead of the curve because that's what everyone emulates. And we've been having Bisons and Raptors and whatnot for years, and now every SUV crossover needs a off-road version. And when I was working for an OEM 10 years ago, I remember seeing this and I was like, we should really look at making off-road versions of vehicles and not sporty ones. And they went all in. It wasn't because of me, but they went all in on anyway. And yeah, that's what everyone's doing. So Steve, maybe you're right.
Yeah, it's wild to think that the Raptor's 15 years old now.
Yes. Yeah, it truly is. Yeah. And give Ford credit because that really did kind of birth this whole segment, especially being so Southwest desert focused, right? Like off-road has been around, but Raptor really took it to a new level with the whole Baja racing kind of style.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I remember being a kid and reading like, wait, it can just take bumps at 100 miles an hour? What? Like, incredible stuff.
Totally.
While doing these charity rallies at a friend, well, they're still friends, and they still have it actually, and they bought a second-year Raptor. So they got it when the engine increased power and the orange with the black graphics package, because that's what it has to be. And I remember like this was 2011. I remember driving with them and just seeing like they just drive for medians and like just hit things, and I'd be like, how can you do that? It doesn't do burnouts. We struggled with that, but otherwise it was unbelievable. Before we go, Steve, we kind of start talking about it, but what future trucks, near or far, are you looking forward to?
I think the Ram Charger is the most exciting thing on the future. Oh, sorry, excuse me. That's the Ram Rev now, the recently renamed Ram Rev.
But not the Rev, the other Rev.
Yeah. The plug-in hybrid, or once again, that's not correct. The range extended plug-in Ram pickup truck that's coming. I feel like I've been shouting about this for so long now that we need a plug-in hybrid pickup truck. Everybody went straight to full EVs. I'm not anti-EV. I'm not anti-EV pickup truck, but they're not the right tool for a lot of jobs. Where a plug-in hybrid pickup truck is the right tool for way more jobs. It just, in my head, it makes so much sense. I'm disappointed that Stellantis didn't just take the 4xe system and put it into a Ram. I think that would have sold. So yeah, no doubt the Ram Rev is in my head one of the most exciting things on the near horizon.
Yeah, Ram's going full Ram with it, where like you said, they couldn't have just taken, an existing system and give it a bit of range. Like, no, we're going to put the world's biggest plug-in hybrid battery into this sucker and make it weigh
Right.
17,000 pounds, and off you go.
But it has
Yeah, for
infinite
sure.
range.
And I know they canceled the EV, but in my head, it's like if you're doing all this development work, how hard is that going to be to bring back one day if the market calls for it? And maybe it won't, but I'm still confident that the EVs are coming. I think it's way slower than the automakers thought it was going to be, but I don't think it's going to fully stall out. I think it's going to be a slow burn and keep growing and growing. So I wouldn't even write off the full electric Ram, but I would guess it's probably a few years away if it happens.
Yeah. Mike, I have one other thing before we let Stephen go, and I know that it's getting time. But Stephen, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you also head up something that we all judged this year. So if you want to give a quick shout out for Canadian Car of the Year.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've been the chair of the Canadian Car of the Year now for 3 years, 3 years, I believe. And we're just getting ready to do our big annual event with AJAC, which is Test Fest. So all the auto journalists from across the country get together and, drive all our new cars. And then we vote on them. And yeah, man, it's always exciting when a new Car of the Year competition comes around. And for me personally, I love it because obviously I'm so hyper focused on trucks and SUVs. And these days, I just feel like I don't even get the news from the car world because I'm so busy in power sports too. So it's my, yearly reminder of, oh, hey, there's these things called cars out there. I should go drive some of them. So it's great to get in all the new stuff. And then of course, on a broader scale, we're just trying to help consumers, pick out new cars essentially and try to narrow down their search lists because there's so many cars out there today. There's more information on those cars than ever, which is a positive and a negative, right? There's people like me on YouTube who this is all we do and put that information out there, but it's so hard for them to sort through that. So with AJAC, we try to make it a little simpler and say, here's a list of, the 12 best cars in Canada. And then here's our 4 main winners. And, hopefully consumers find that helps them, make a short list for themselves and helps them in their purchasing decisions. So yeah, I'm excited. Always excited for another Car of the Year.
Yeah.
Test Fest is like Christmas for you. You get to show them, be like, oh, look at all these cars I didn't know existed.
100%, man. Yeah, and I always do that too. Like, what is that thing? When did they make that? When did they change that name? And then I just walk by the trucks, which everyone else wants to drive, because most other people don't drive the trucks all year long. So
yeah,
that's definitely what it's good for, to be able to get in some stuff that you might not be so acquainted with.
Yeah. So if anyone needs to find you at Test Fest, you're going to be in the sports cars.
Yeah, if I can get into the Porsches, I'll be there.
Well, I've submitted my vote, so I'm ahead of the game this year. Usually I'm one of the delinquents you're chasing saying, get your votes in. So you don't have to chase me this year. But
nice. All right, good news. Yeah, I still got to go do my votes. So
same.
Well, we'll let you get going, maybe to go do your votes and get ready because it is just a couple weeks away. But thanks for joining us. We'll definitely have you on again, maybe after all the Car of the Year stuff's done, and we can talk about the winners and the ones that individually maybe we thought should have won.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, we announced a Toronto Auto Show in February, and sometime after that, it'd be awesome to talk about them.
Yeah, and then I can scold all of my fellow voters and saying, "Why didn't you pick this car?" Yeah.
God. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We will talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, welcome back. We have Colum joining us to talk some F1, and there is a race this weekend or last weekend, depending on when you're listening to this. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to focus on rumors
and the silly season because it seems to be just ramping up. I couldn't keep track of all the rumors. There's some I've missed between last week when we talked and this week. I'll be like scrolling on my phone and I'll just take like a screen cap of like whenever I see a rumor, and my phone is just filled with them and exploding, and I had to just remove a bunch of stuff because there's way too many. So I tried to narrow it down to the juiciest ones. So here's probably the most juicy is that Charles Leclerc has apparently been in conversations with Aston Martin, McLaren, and Mercedes. that's when his contract finally ends at Ferrari, which I think there's still a while left in it. But again, if you're smart, of course you would talk to other, teams to see what they would offer you so that you could, be in a better position. So, Ferrari, if they lose Leclerc and Hamilton decides to retire at the end of next year, they went from having quite a duo to not a whole lot. So,
do you know how much time's left?
I don't think it's at least next year. It might be the year after that as well. I'd have to double check.
Okay.
So.
Just gonna say, like, looking at these teams, like, well, only one of these teams really have a chance at a seat. The other two are pretty locked up. But if you're talking in a couple of years, I get it. And Behrman obviously is going to Ferrari eventually. He's being developed in Haas right now, so I would still think you'd have him and Leclerc together. But maybe it could be like Charles Cadillac.
There you go. Ooh, that'd be a good move. It's funny seeing this graphic on screen of Charles with all the different race suits on. There is that rumor that I think we talked about last week that Piastri could be going to Ferrari. So imagine Piastri ends up at Ferrari, and then McLaren's looking for somebody. And really, when you're, I don't know, one of these top level guys. I mean, I currently right now, if I was Leclerc, I'd much rather be at McLaren than at Ferrari. So I'd probably rather be a lot of places.
This is what I propose. Formula One should be like other professional sports, and you have your 2 signed drivers, and you also have your reserve, and then you have a couple prospects. And there's a trade deadline, and you can trade drivers amongst teams. So you could be like, all right, I'll give you Leclerc and our top prospect for Piastri, and then swap them teams. Just make everything much easier and interesting.
I think, someone will dream that up one of these days, because there's a lot of these rumors that I never got to was about the potential drivers. Like, and I was going to skip over it, but now I'll mention it. The Alex Dunn thing, who was a McLaren prospect, and he's a Formula 2 driver, and he's the 5th in the championship now, and everyone's thought to be the up and coming. And this week, McLaren it was big news that they canceled their contract with him, that he basically isn't part of their racing program anymore. And everyone sounds like that's like a big, the reason for that is that McLaren, they basically don't have a path for him to get into a Formula One car, because they have 2 top drivers right now. And so they're like, why would we continue to foster, a younger driver when we already have the people we need, right? Versus you would start looking at, if you've got a 19-year-old, you start looking at, let's start fostering a 16-year-old driver, because in 3 years from now, we might really need somebody. But so it continues to just go. But I love that idea of basically almost trading a prospect, because the reality is most of these teams do have these guys locked up in contracts. That was the whole Piastri fiasco, right? When he got out of Alpine and went to McLaren, is because Alpine didn't have an airtight or a watertight contract with them. So
we're gonna have him race next year. And no, I'm not. Canceling that makes sense, because why keep investing so much money when you don't? And that's why, this rumor too, when I hear this person's going to McLaren, I'm always like, not anytime soon, because both drivers are under decent contracts and they're in the best car. So why would either young driver in the top car want to go anywhere?
Yeah. The only team where that isn't true is with Red Bull, because they trade drivers every 2 months. So, but before we get to that, a piece of news from IndyCar that former F1 driver Mick Schumacher, who didn't have the best career in F1 so far. Apparently, he is going to be testing for Rahal Letterman in Indy, so he may wind up in a seat there. He made some comment about how, because I think he was doing World Endurance Championship, and he liked it, but he still sort of yearns for the open wheel cars. And I think, this could be a good fit. He's certainly a knowable name, right? He'd have an instant fan base in America, I would think, if he came to IndyCar. So,
good for him. Why sit as a reserve or test driver when you could be in this series, probably doing quite well if you're on a good team? So
yeah, and he's got the ability to get on a good team, and it's always tough. He didn't quite seem to have it for F1. He was also on a terrible team. So sometimes that can make you look worse, and then you have to overdrive the car to try and get maximum performance. So he might be better than his F1 record sort of showed, but wasn't great either. And but that doesn't mean you can't be exceptional at another series. So
And there's been more than one driver that's gone back, or not back, but gone to Indy or other series, gotten better at their craft, shown how dominant they could be there, and then go back to F1. So
yeah, give it a shot. As I mentioned about the team that does train drivers all the time, so no one's ever really secure. There's a rumor here. I have to find out the exact details. I wrote it down. So Arvid Lindblad, who I've mentioned before, apparently is like, it's confirmed is going to be racing at VCARB next year. So there's a Dutch guy, Eric Van Haren, who's a reputable name in Formula One rumors and gossip, and he claims this. It's like a done deal, and what we just don't know is who won't be with VCARB next year as a result. So Red Bull loves to churn them through, that's for sure.
For those not in the know, explain what VCARB is.
VCARB is Red Bull's junior team. Racing Bulls, Toro Rosso, the one of the 95, Visa Cash App, whatever you want to call it. They have so many different names. They just, but it's the feeder team to Red Bull is the important part.
Yeah, I think right now they're the Running Bulls, but you're right. It's like Cash App Running Bull or Racing Bulls, sorry. Yeah, but it's something. But they just go by RB. So if I'm to speculate, it's probably Lawson. Although he's been doing okay lately, but that's usually just what happens is you go on Red Bull, and then they bump you back down here. You do better than you did on Red Bull, and then they cut you, and you end up on another team. Unless he's already got a team he wants to just go to.
Yeah.
I don't know who else.
No, it's a weird setup, that's for sure. So we'll see. And then my final bit of gossip is something we haven't talked about in a long time. It's George Russell. Although as just before we hopped on here, I watched in Singapore free practice 2 that he slammed into the barrier. So not too bad, but not good for the car. But he'd be fine. But yeah, there's been this lack of information about contracts for Mercedes for next year. So apparently there's a discussion. Italian journalist Franco Corradi. So he has basically said that George has a contract. It just hasn't been announced yet. It's a 1+1. So 1 year contract with a 1 year extension. And the extension becomes automatic if he outperforms Kimi Antonelli by a certain margin of points. We don't know what that margin is, but that's what it's discussing. So because I think that was the whole sticking point with why we haven't heard a contract is Mercedes only wants to give him a 1, he wants a 2 year, and so they've just been in a stalemate for all this time. So I think this is the compromise they found is, we'll give you a 2 year if you can show that you're definitely the number 1 driver. And Kimi started the season strong, but George has really stayed very just stable all year long, and Kimi's ebbed and flowed, I'd say. So
I feel like Russell's not 100% happy with where the team's at. I think he's fine with the team, but it's funny how whenever there's rumors of moving, it's always his name comes up. Remember, it used to be he and Verstappen are going to swap seats. Now it's maybe him and Charles will swap seats, which would be hilarious if George and Lewis ended up on Ferrari together. The whole team moved, but
that would be funny. Yeah, he just seems to I don't know, strange fit, and he certainly is driving really well. He's not one of my top choices if I was going to pick a top 3 driver, but I think he is even 4th in points right now or something like that. So in the championship, so he's very reliable. And I think it's done really well in a car that isn't fabulous, right? The Mercedes is just okay. And I think he's put in some pretty good times this year. So good for him. And hopefully he gets what he wants out of it. So
that seems to be the theme this year. Every car is okay. McLaren's been pretty good, although the last couple of races, they've been some self-inflicted wounds, but we got to stop talking about drivers on this because Lawson just smashed into the wall. So
oh no. Oh.
Yeah, so let's not name any more names.
It's Singapore. There's a lot of wall smashing to be done. So we'll see more of that, I think, before the weekend is through. So
let's see if Lawson can not make 3 straight mistakes like last time. So not Lawson, sorry. Who was it that had a horrible race? Oh, Piastri.
Oh, yeah. That was just mistakes brought on more mistakes, and unusual for Piastri in general, right? So,
Yeah, it's sort of like he got rattled, where that's what's happened to Norris in the past, and Piastri always just seemed, you know, ice water in the veins. But everyone has those moments. So
They do. So I'm excited for a weekend of racing.
now Norris and Leclerc just bumped in the being released in pit lane. So we gotta stop saying names there.
All right, shut it down, Mike. Shut it down.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will talk to you next week. We'll have some analysis potentially of this week, and I'm sure more silly season rumors as we don't wind down the season, but there isn't that much left, and then it's gonna be. Usually we don't talk much in the off season, but I think this year we'll be coming back every week as we get ready for the chaos of the new regs, new teams, new manufacturers, new drivers.
There will be a lot to talk about. We need to have like somebody from Cadillac on here to talk about the F1 team directly. So maybe we can use your automaker side connections to be like, hey, Mark Royce, come on and talk about F1 with us.
Yeah, let's talk about Bottas and what he's going to bring to the team.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good, Mike. Take care.
So that just about wraps things up on the Auto Guide Show, brought to you by eBay Motors. Kyle, take a quick look at what we have been up to and what's coming up. So this week, I am driving a Chevrolet EV. It seems to be a theme this week. It is the Blazer EV SS, something we haven't driven yet. And I'm not going to get into any details, but it's a sledgehammer EV. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, nice. I know one of our friends did a comparison at another outlet with that and the Ioniq 5N, and so you calling it a sledgehammer feels like that's appropriate.
It's funny because I was going to say, like, it has all the power and ferocity of a 5N, but without the like sharp reflexes. Like it grips like crazy because of its tires in a corner, but you're equal parts hanging on as driving the vehicle. So it's interesting.
It sounds fun in its own way.
Yeah.
And then I am in something not a polar opposite because it is enthusiast oriented, but a much simpler car. I am in the 2026 Honda Civic Si. And
Nice.
You know what? It's great. I love the Si. I know it's not the sharpest choice in the sport compact segment, but living in the big city, it's such a good city car. I took a friend. I'm not going to talk too much about it either because obviously we'll save it for the review. But I took a friend to a movie last night, and she was really impressed with how nice it was inside. She's like, "Oh, it's a standard." Yeah, and she's like, aren't you? Doesn't that get it to be a pain like in the city? I was like, maybe in other cars, but not in a Honda. This shifter is so good. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Imagine how good it'd be with grippy tires too. So next week I am going from one overpowered SUV to another. I am in the Range Rover Sport. I think it's called the SV1. Anyway, it's the one with the over 600 horsepower turbocharged V8. So
it's subtle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm sure it'll sound subtle because that's also something Range Rover likes to do with their SVR vehicles.
I appreciate that we've switched because, I had a very, very fancy August and first half of September. And now you are. And I'm in a Civic Si this week. And then next week, I'm in a Hyundai Tucson hybrid.
Oh, nice. I'm looking forward to seeing about that because we like I guess it would be the pre-facelift now. Or is it the same one?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it was a pre-facelift.
We've driven the facelift. Or at least I did very briefly at Test Fest.
I didn't.
Yeah.
So look forward to see what you think living with it because that was like one of, if not our favorite in that segment.
Yes.
You know what we should do? We should get all the hybrids of that size and do a mega comparison down the road.
Interesting. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm taking it with me to go drive a certain other hybrid in that class. Just the one that currently leads the class in sales. I don't know how the scheduling happened where I'm just happening to be driving one of its main competitors to it.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, that also kind of hints at what you're doing next week. I am going nowhere, so just me and a big V8 for the week. Can't complain. But we will have other stuff that we've been doing lately on the show. Maybe I'll have my full impressions on the Blazer EVSS. Kyle will have some other thoughts posted like the Supra. But until then, this has been the Auto Guide Show, and we'll see you next week.
So long, everybody.
eBay has reinvented car buying. From click to curb, everything is covered. Ever try to buy your car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger on blind trust? That era is over. Now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. This is the modern way to buy your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.